finest athletes of the cycling world come together today in Philadelphia for the USPro Championship. Welcome to First Union Cycling 99, 6 ABC's live coverage of the longest running and richest single-day race in the country. 140 riders from the world's top teams are competing over a 156-mile course. Also today, coverage of the 72-mile Liberty Classic, featuring more than 100 top female riders battling for the biggest single-day purse in women's cycling. Live from the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, here's Action News Sports Director Gary Papa.
Good morning, everybody. What a beautiful sight that is. The world has indeed come to Philadelphia. This is the U.S. Pro Cycling Championship. As we've been telling you all week, it is one of the best bike races in the history of this planet. A little bit of overstatement, but I guess it's the case today. Also, it's a celebration of Philadelphia's neighborhoods. It is truly one of the great sporting events of our time, and here comes Phil Leggett and John Eustace. And Phil, let's talk about this. Phil is the voice of bike racing, the Harry Callis, if you will. And so far, what we've seen today, marvelous racing, perfect conditions, could be a record time.
Well, we're looking for that because the women are running through the start-finish area here at the moment. They're going out on their third of 5 laps, while the men are further down the course, heading towards Manayunk. They've got 10 big circuits today. It's already very hot here in downtown Philadelphia. It's going to be a tough race.
Humidity a little bit low, so which could help the riders, I think.
Yeah, that's very good for the riders, low humidity, but they're still doing a lot of fluid today.
Burning up thousands of calories,
Yeah,
covering hundreds of miles. This guy's done a few of these races. John Eustace, the kid from Doylestown. So far, so good for everybody. Looks to be very smooth without incident.
No, it's a very good race. You've got the best level of competition you've ever had in this event. A World Cup women's race. The current world champion is here racing. Fantastic event there. You've got the United States Postal Service, the Seiko Cannondale team from Italy. Tremendous competition all the way around. It'll take a lot of distance and a lot of time to break up this level of field.
The world has come to Philadelphia. It's also a world event because the world will also be watching what's going on here in Philadelphia. And it is also more than just an individual bike race. This is truly a team event. So many teams to talk about. We'll get into those names, Saturn and MyPay and U.S. Postal Service in just a moment. We got our own team. We got our Action News Sports team. Let's start off in the leadoff position, batting first in the pit area. Good morning, Cecily Tynan.
Good morning, Gary. What a great day. Beautiful weather, an exciting event. I'm at the area. I think personally it's the best place to get a close-up look at the athletes. This is the pit area, otherwise known as the feed zone. This is where the racers have their team support. This is where they get their water that they need. They also get the fuel that they really need. 6 hours of biking. They burn a lot of calories, as many as 7,000. So they need the fuel to make it through the 6-hour bike race. They need the fuel to make it up that infamous Manayunk wall. This is where they get it. And talking about Manayunk, that's where Karen Rogers is live this morning. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Cecily. I'm at Main and Levering, where all of the action is. The men have just finished coming by now. They are heading up the grueling Manayunk wall. Dramatic point in the race, and you know what that means? They need the crowd to energize them. We are here. We are in place, ready to pump the racers. Now let's check in with Irving Fryer, who is at the top of the Manayunk wall. Irving.
Hey, thanks, Karen. I'm here at what is called the wall. This is the toughest, this is the steepest, this is the most grueling part of the course. Here we have the guys on their 3rd lap, and already some of the cyclists are struggling to get to the wall. We're going to have some good stuff for you later on. I'm going to attempt to climb the wall. I'm also going to be wearing some of the cycling gear. If you want to know what to wear, if you want to be a cyclist, check us out later on. We're going to take a gun, and we're going to time these guys to see how fast they're going. So let's go now to Mike McCarthy, the man on the motor who's in the middle of it all. Mike?
Thanks, Irving, and good morning, everyone. From your eyes within the race, I'm in the catbird seat today, bringing you all the action from the back of the field, actually a position I'm not accustomed to being up this hill here in Manayunk. A big story we're watching right now, Christian Vandevelde, the young star from the Postal team, is not riding his bike right now. He had mechanical difficulty. They're working on his bike, trying to get him back into the race. We're going to follow that story closely, and now back over to Jack at the start-finish line.
All right, how you doing, Mike? A couple of races just flew by me here. We are at the finish line. This is where it will all end.
and we're going to stay pretty busy down here as well. We're going to have interviews with both the men's and the women's winner. I'm also going to take a look back at the entire week here in the Delaware Valley. Lots of racing going on all week long. I'm also going to take a look inside the U.S. Postal Service team, the team that everybody is talking about. And we also hope to have an interview with the family of the superstar of the U.S. Postal Service team. Of course, that is George Hincapie. We're going to have it all for you right here at the start-finish line. Gary, it's going to be a great race.
Great work, Jack Brayboy. Also joining us in a few minutes after he gets out of that tie and coat and comes on down is Scott Palmer. How about our team, guys? Not bad. Channel 6 has got a pretty good team, huh?
We've got a great team. As Mike McCarthy said, he's not used to being at the back. I think he's ridden this race 6 times as a good pro bike rider, too. So he'll enjoy today, I think.
That's one thing we're looking forward to the great perspective of Mike McCarthy being right in the pack. We can see what's going on. But first, let's see what went on this morning just after 9 o'clock in the morning. 150 men ready to attack U.S. Pro Cycling Championships. And the race started without incident, absolutely smooth.
Great rollout, facing up to 156 miles, and the hot favorite, so there he goes through the stricture now, is George Hincapie. He's defending his US Pro Cycling National Championship. He's worn that national jersey with pride this year, and he wants to keep it, so he's going to be in the hot seat today. At the moment, though, John, we've got a breakaway of 11 riders, and they're about a minute ahead of the field.
It's part of the pattern that we've seen all day so far. Attacks on the United States Postal Service team. The other teams are here to bring the race to them, to make the Postals use everything they have to defend that national championship jersey. And it's going to be a tough day for the men in blue.
Going after the U.S. Postal team, and just a few moments after the men came the women. And this year they're heading out to 72 miles as 75 women answer the call, about 9:10, I guess it was this morning. And their start as well, their rollout, as Phil so aptly put it, without incident, absolutely perfect. And so many women here. This is a World Cup event. In so many ways, this is better than the men's race because we have the absolute elite of the world's women's cyclists right there on your picture.
The women are in superb form this year, too. The racing is exciting, and they've got the world champion here, Ziliuti, and also we've got the World Cup leader, who is Kupfenagel. We've got the World Cup holder, who's also Ziliuti. She had a great season last year. At the moment, they're all together, John, and they were in little groups, but they've regrouped.
Once again, aggressive racing on the part of the Acca-Dua team from Italy. The world champion Ziliuti in a breakaway, caught. However, more attacks going on. You've got some very fast sprinters in here, especially Petra Rossner of Germany. Everyone in this women's field wants to get away from that German, because if it all comes down together, last year's winner could certainly repeat, and they don't want that to happen.
No, you're right. And in fact, we've got the world champion in the picture there right now. She's trying to get away again. She's going to give them some pain today. I can see that. Remember the race this year, they've added a lap, one more climb of the wall. It's up to 72 miles now. That's a long way for the women, and I think it'll give us a great finale.
Let's give everybody some perspective about where they're heading, where they're going. Let's give a shot of what's happening with the course. 14+ miles, U.S. Pro Cycling Championship course as they head up the side of West River Drive and head course towards Manayunk. How tough can that be?
Well, Manayunk is a beautiful climb. It's been made famous throughout the world by this very race over 15 years. Once they're over that, it's a descent, heads back down to the Schuylkill. Then they veer off over Lemon Hill. It's always a cruel one towards the end. Back into town and round Logan Circle. And towards the end of it, they shorten the last 3 laps, and we just go over Lemon Hill, and then we come back to the finish.
That's actually what John, we had John on that animation. That was you doing that, wasn't it?
Good form as well.
He never got round as fast as that, though. Yeah.
All right, let's get into the race. Here we go. Here are your leaders right now, and you can check off some of these names. As you can see, 2 Americans up there as part of the pack.
Well, Noncentini is the Italian in the break, riding for the Italian Mappe team. He's a brand new professional. He's won over 100 races as a younger rider. Now he's a pro. He hasn't won yet at all as a pro, but he's flying up the wall. He won the climb just a few moments ago. He beat Rob Reynolds-Jones, who rides here for the British Linda McCartney team. And yes, that is the Linda McCartney, the wife, or the late wife now of Sir Paul McCartney. And they're riding very well. They're all vegetarians because that was Linda's wishes. And then Pelusi was in third place over the wall. But at the moment, we're showing you all the names of this breakaway. There are 11 riders here. And the latest time gap, John, it's absolutely shot up in the last 6 miles. 2 minutes 40 seconds now for these leaders.
Wow.
Big attack. This Noncentini has been on the attack the entire day. The Mappe, interestingly enough, the #1 team in the world, has an American leader for this race. A young man named Fred Rodriguez, a very fast sprinter, coming back from injury last year. Mappe picked him up, believe in him, and back in the field with our favorite, George Hincapie. No, somewhere near him is going to be Rodriguez and all of the other favorites. waiting to see what happens in this breakaway up the road.
Now, what we're saying when we say the word gap, just to explain to somebody, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, that is the time from the leading pack to the main pack. So that's quite a sizable distance.
Well,
Earlier we had about a minute at one point, but now we're up to 2:40.
2:40. You're looking at almost a mile on the road now ahead of the main field by this group of 11. I think they've allowed them to run because A, it's a long way to go, and B, looking at the names here, there's nobody who would be seen as initially a marked man in the pack. So the leaders are playing a little bit of a gamble now. The US Postal have only got one rider up here, that's Dylan Casey. He's the young member on the team. And Saturn have got 3 riders up here. Well, 2 in fact, sorry, 2 because they changed one of the numbers. Mark McCormack is up here and Seth Pelusi. The old veteran, the man that won a gold medal, I can't even remember, 84 in the Olympic Games, Steve Hegg. I thought he'd retire, but he broke his leg and took a few months out. He's back again, and he's in that leading group as well.
All eyes back on George Hincapie, the Queens, New York native. Won this race last year, won but was disqualified the year before. He would like to make it 2 in a row, or maybe 3 in a row in his mind, depending on how you look at it. The man has been on fantastic form. Won the first Union Classic in Trenton, New Jersey on Thursday night. Just ripped the field to pieces to win in a sprint victory. 4th in Paris-Roubaix. Last year's title victory here in Philadelphia launched his career in front in the Tour de France. The greatest races in the world. Look for him today as well.
We are off and racing. U.S. Pro Cycling Championships. We'll be back with more. Back live, U.S. Pro Cycling Championships live on Kelly Drive. Look between the trees, and you will see the riders heading down Kelly Drive. It is lap number 3 for the men. They're finishing about 46 miles of 156 miles as we check out the leaders. That lead is now at 2 minutes and 18 seconds with the lead pack ahead of the regular pack. Gary Papa with you with Phil Leggett and John Eustace. And so far, you see the sea of colors. Men and women from around the world have made their cycling home this Sunday on the streets of Philadelphia, Phil.
Well, it's a lovely picture, and it's a perfect day for a bike race of this length. It's going to go on for at least 6 hours, remember. The boys at the moment are around about 44 miles covered of the 156. They have decided, for some reason, to start chasing rather early. So this escape group of 11 that went out to 2 minutes 40 seconds lead, they're chasing them down. They're on Lemon Hill here, the leaders, and the main field is just coming off Kelly Drive. So it's down to 2:18. So there is a number of riders in that big pack now chasing them down. So that's an interesting tactic.
One of the signs of aggressive fast racing is when you see the field all stretched out in a single line, the way you've seen in this shot and the other shots. That means that there's aggression at the front, that the riders are diving for the slipstream, diving for protection from the wheel, from the rider in front of them. And it's a sign of a hard race, and this race has been very aggressive right from the gun, and should remain so the rest of the day.
It's a serious cat and mouse game. One rider goes out, a Dylan Casey, U.S. Postal Service. He's not going to win the race, but what he's setting himself up for is the rest of the team, George Hincapie later on, to have enough reserve, that he hasn't expended all that energy, that he's been able to cut through the air with the greatest of ease, if you will, and that helps. And Dylan, so far, is the guy that U.S. Postal Service has set up so far.
They put him out there in a defensive tactic. Bicycle racing is different than running or triathlon. It's much closer to football or soccer. You have definite players with definite tactical tasks assigned to them. You have offensive, defensive players. Dylan Casey is out there in a defensive mode to keep an eye on the breakaway for his teammates.
The man, U.S. Pro Cycling Championships on your left. The men have just completed their lap number 3, heading up for lap number 4. We see them ride by our start-finish line right here next to us, and they had a long line going for a while, John, and now it's bunching up a little bit, but it seems as though not much drafting in the way.
The leaders are in front from the men, and they are being chased down by the Danish accept card. You saw 5 of them. We saw 5 of them lined up at the front of the bunch, doing the chase, closing down the gap, taking the responsibility of the race, as we say. These 2 riders, sensing the danger from behind, have done what's called a counterattack, which is a tactical move. When you think a breakaway is going to get caught, the view from the field is, oh, those guys are getting caught, and you re-attack and hope that the field catches the riders that you've left behind and hesitates and gives you a time gap, and that's what's going on here.
Attack, counterattack, punch, counter-punch.
Just like
similar.
boxing.
A lot of strategy going on.
The 2 leaders here, the Seth Pelusi and David McCook, both Americans, and they've gone clear as they came onto the parkway there. The time gap as they went by our commentary position there was 1 minute and 54 seconds, so it's come back enormously from that 2 minutes plus 40 that they had. And as John Eustace has said, It's all being done by the Danish Accept Card team because they have nobody in that lead group, and they're trying to nip this one in the bud before it gets too far ahead. So they're driving that race on, and unfortunately for the rest, I think they're going to bring it back together.
Here's our lead right now, 2 minutes and 3 seconds. Earlier it was 2 minutes and 18 seconds. It's Team Saturn, and they're the money team. That's what they keep talking about. They're the Yankees. They got all the big deep pocket men.
Saturn is a very good team, and they're a very deep team. They don't have one specified team leader. Mape working for Fred Rodriguez, Hincapie's the leader for Postal. The Saturns, every one of them feel that they can win the race, and so their strategy today is to place a rider in every move and hope that that rider will be the one from their team able to pull off the win.
Yeah, you're part of a winning team back, John, in the 80s, and I guess your strategy for Team Pepsi that you were a part of back in the 80s was to attack a team that was the leader, make them work now. This is where the race might be won. If U.S. Postal Service has got to expend a lot of energy, you might be able to have a little bit of an upset tonight.
That's exactly what we did in the mid-'80s with race winner Roberto Gaggioli. We had the Pepsi Fanini team. Those days, the counterpart of the U.S. Postal Service team was the 7-Eleven team, Davis Spinney, the great stars of the 80s. We took the race to them. We made breakaways, we attacked, we made them chase, and once they beat us in 87 with a fantastic ride by Tom Schuler, but in 88, we were able to pull it off. So any team can be beaten. You have to believe in yourself and go on the attack.
The strategy of Team Saturn. Thank you, John and Phil. We'll be back with more of the U.S. Pro Cycling Championships in just a few moments. Charlie back live to home base as we're checking it out with Phil Leggett and John Eustace, and here they are attacking the course once again.
Approaching the wall, the front group here driven by the Navigators. This is the breakaway group that has at last check about a minute lead over the field. They have in that front Mark McCormick of the Saturn team, Little Hales of Navigators, Paul Martin of Navigators, two of them, and they approach the crucial one of the crucial fourth times up the Manayunk wall.
The women started at about 9:20. The men started at about 9 o'clock. The women should be finishing a little afternoon, as we've been talking about. They've expanded that race to 72 miles as we check out the men as they're cruising and going slow up the hill.
Well, it looks as though they're going slow, but of course they're going as best as they can at the moment. They've gone through the 50 miles point now, 106 miles still to race. The rider on the front left of our picture is climbing this wall like a real mountain climber. He's the only Italian in the breakaway, Rinaldo Noncentini, and he's trying to get clear of the wall. Terrific noise on the wall as well. The crowd applaud. And look at this, Noncentini, he was first over the wall last time. There is a big prize for the King of the Wall competition, and Noncentini going for it right now. Amateur world silver medalist last year, and that gave him a pro contract with the world's #1 team, Mape.
Ronaldo Noncentini. And John, I guess when you're climbing the wall and you're digging deep and you hear the crowd, that has to help.
It helps amazingly, and one thing that the Europeans who come here always remark on is the incredible enthusiasm that they encounter here in Philadelphia. No matter where they've raced in the world, they've never, ever experienced anything like this.
Really?
Oh, no. There's nobody that goes crazy like they do in Philadelphia. We all know that. And on the wall, it all comes to its peak because it's wild, and they just can't believe the sound, the noise, the goosebumps on their arms.
And we see the race summary right now at the end of lap number 2, an 11-man break, including so many riders right here. And the maximum gap at one point was 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Current gap is down to 1 minute and 20 seconds. They've halved the gap, if you will. And we have so much strategy going on as we check out the race with Mr. Phil Leggett, the voice of bike racing.
Well, 52 miles into their 156 right now. There are still 10 riders. There were 11. One got left behind. There are 10 left in this group now. And really, there's only one rider from Great Britain, Rob Reynolds-Jones. He's on the Linda McCartney team. And one rider from Italy, and that's Rinaldo Noncentini, who's been up the top of the wall first the last 2 laps. And all of the rest of the competitors in this breakaway are from the United States and spread across a number of teams. So the Americans really are taking the race to the Europeans and the international riders this time around. The big missers, I think, are the Danish Accept Card team. They got within a minute of this breakaway with a great chase. This is Rob Reynolds-Jones we're looking at here now. And they close it to within a minute, but it's dropped back now, as Gary has said, to 1 minute and 20 seconds. So they've tried to shut it down. They've failed. It might be now this breakaway will pick up 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes.
Strong group. That's about the perfect size group. 10 men, if they get it together, if they all decide among themselves, and this goes on, that they have a common interest in staying away, can really put time into a field. It would not be uncommon for a break like this to get more than 5 minutes, 6,
Really?
7 minutes. That can happen. And that becomes very exciting as once the stars hit the front with the last miles of the race entered.
We're back here with the men now. Rob Reynolds-Jones riding extremely well. Really excited this morning, Rob was, when he saw the number of people waiting to watch the start of this race, as he's come here to ride the event for the first time. And Nocentini's I think he's actually talking to his team car there, because he's probably got a little microphone underneath his throat, and he's asking what the time gap is to the team manager back in the pack. Because we're giving you so much live coverage on Channel 6 today, a lot of the teams have put television sets in the cars so they can see who's at the head of the race.
They're listening to you right now, Phil.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Oh, you better be good. Wait, communication's come a long way. When you used to race, I guess the communication was just trying to talk to your guys and trying to get word of mouth. Now,
that's right.
It's a computer era.
Yeah, and they little microphones wrapped around their chains on their throat, and they put a little earpiece in, and they can talk back. And because there's so many languages in international cycling, half of the race don't know what they're saying.
Well, we know what Karen Rogers is saying. She's now live in Manayunk. Good morning, Karen. How's everything going?
Good morning, Gary. You know, I think I have the best view from here, Main and Levering. It looks like the racers are coming right at you here. We've got a great crowd here, some amateur athletes, lots of kids, a group representing the Postal Service. Isn't that right, Larry Kelly? You work for the Postal Service?
Yes, I do.
And you're cheering them on?
And we're here cheering them on, a whole crowd here.
All right.
And we're cheering the U.S. Postal Service on to victory.
Absolutely.
Rogers, and while you were talking, something major has happened. Remember that lead? That gap lead of about a minute plus? It is gone.
It is gone, and the Accept Car team...
Here it is.
Out at 1 minute 20 it was. In less than a mile and a half, it's come down to absolutely nothing. The field has come all together again, and they're on lap number 4 of 10 big circuits here of the Manayunk Wall.
We have our man Mike McCarthy actually riding with the riders. He's on a motorcycle. Mike, can you hear me?
Little Hales.
Can I hear Mike? I guess I can. Mike, can you hear me? I'll try one more time.
I'm right here, Gary. Can you hear me?
Mike, what happened right there? What happened to the lead?
Well, what happened was the Accept Car team finally said they'd had enough. They went to the front, they put 6 riders on the front and brought the break back. Todd Littlehales, who was a part of that group that was up the road there, took off on his own, said, I want to try to be off the front. He's a sprinter. His big ambition in this race is probably going to be trying to get to the finish line. But right now, the Accept Car guys are in control. They missed the break. They're doing the work back there now. They want to keep this race contained. They have a lot of strong riders for the later parts of the races. And right now, Littlehales is just out here trying to get a little bit of press time.
Looks like number 55, Todd Littlehales, has grabbed a little bit of a lead right now. Have you noticed that? But what about Team U.S. Postal Service? Where's Mr. Hincapie right now?
I think Mr. Hincapie is enjoying the beautiful weather and the great crowds. This is the best crowd I've ever seen for this race. I've done this race about a half a dozen times and never seen so many people up through Manayunk and in parts of the course where we don't usually see a lot of people. It seems like the whole city of Philadelphia is out here today. But George Hincapie, when I was back in the group, was sitting in the back, having a little bit to eat, a little bit to drink, keeping himself fresh, and mainly getting himself prepared for the later stages of the race, which is when he's going to shine here.
Well, Todd Littlehales here, Mike. He's now on Lemon Hill, and there is a marvellous crowd on Lemon Hill as well. It's all around the course. I agree, it's the biggest crowd I've ever seen, and this is my 12th one from the comfortable seat. And but I do miss never having been down to the other end of the course on race day.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do without me then?
No.
Well, thanks, Gary.
We cannot do
I'll
without
go and watch
you.
at the other
No.
end.
That's one person we cannot do without is Phil. And John. And Cecily and everybody else.
Absolutely not. We've got our great team as well. But the teamwork of Accept Card is special today. They really did chase that breakaway down, and they did it so swiftly. Todd Littlehales, a little show of bravado. He was part of the 10 riders who got caught by Accept Card. He sprinted off the front again. He is dangling just ahead of the race. What he ideally would like now is to see 3 or 4 riders join him. He doesn't want to go for the rest of the day riding around just in front of the race by himself. But I think that the whole field will come up here.
It's a good move on the part of Littlehales. He's a strong rider, sprinter, on his way back to form. Had some good victories already this year. Yeah, and one thing interesting about a bicycle race, besides the sporting aspect of it, the competition, is the fact that it shows off a community to its very best. These helicopter shots of Fairmount Park, the shots of Manayunk, the fact that all the crowd is here together, that's another important aspect of the sport. It brings all of these elements together, and it's the only sport in the world that really does it this well.
A beautiful race, a beautiful city. We'll be back with more beauty right after this. Stay right there. It is 11:22 on a Sunday morning. In case you're just waking up, where have you been? You have missed a lot more happening, though. U.S. Pro Cycling Championships. Beautiful pictures on the Ben Franklin Parkway as the men are finishing up lap number 4. Heading to lap number 5. They're going to do 10 in all. Should be done about maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. With me is Phil Leggett and also John Eustace. And Phil, so far, the men, a couple of groups have gone out. They've been caught. A couple of groups have gone out. They have been caught. But the U.S. Postal Service team is being tested so far early in this race.
Well, they're driving this. They've caught, as you say. But Todd Littlehales may have thrown a little bit of an explosive device inside the bunch here, because a big group has caught him. There's now 22 of them here in this lead group. You see the split in the field. Don't be confused by the bells, because one of the teams gave out bells to all the crowd today, so everybody's ringing them.
How
but
dare
anyway,
they?
They're going out now on lap number 5 of 10 big circuits, and they're at the 60-mile point covered. Littlehales is the first man through there, but joined by a group here, and I can see one of the riders looks like the Italian Salvatore Comesso. He's the rider on the head of the bunch there, but not the lone leader. And he's a very, very good rider right now. We've got 29 riders in that main group now, so a couple more have got across here on the Ben Franklin Parkway. There it is. I think it's Comesso as he keeps going, trying to get clear here. Very interesting move now. I think that anybody at this moment who fancies the chances has got to get into this group. 29's too many.
If you're saying you're not a part of this 29 group, you may have some severe problems later on.
Could very well. That's a big group. That's a powerful group. You've got a very powerful locomotive driving the train in Salvatore Comesso from Napoli, Italy. One of the most powerful young riders in all of Europe. He's only 23 years old. He's been exploding, dynamiting races all over the world this year. Problem, he might be going out too early. He's young, he's energetic, he doesn't have enough patience, but boy does he have the legs. And one man who did not make that front group is none other than our defending champion, George Hincapie, back in the bunch.
There's the man who started it all. Oh no, it's his teammate now. They tricked me a bit there. This is Chris Baldwin of the Navigators. Todd Littlehales, his teammate, was the man that started it all, but Baldwin's made the split as well. 29 riders have got into this. The gap, and it's the first gap we've had, is only 15 seconds over the field, but this is a crucial move. There are a number of US Postal riders having made this split. The Mappe are in there. I noted too, Accept Car didn't miss this one. They've jumped right onto the train because they were the boys that chased down the earlier breakaway. But Comesso is a former European champion, and I think he's now in his 3rd year as a professional, and he's starting to settle in big time.
The Navigators have put the pedal to the metal. They're putting some pressure on everybody else. Also here this morning, he got out of the coat and tie. At least I hope he did. No coat and tie, right? Scott Palmer, live in Manayunk. Hello,
Hi, Gary.
Scott.
How you doing?
Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you. And good to see the riders who are now making their way up the wall. This is pain for the cyclists. For those who are watching, it's time to party. Hello, Manayunk. I think, you know, Wrigley Field, you think about the Ivy. Boston, you think about the Monster. Manayunk, it's O'Brien's watering hole. We're going to try to duck in here and not get hit by any cyclists. How about that? Oh, just got a little bit wet. We're going to have some fun all day here. Irving Fryer, a little bit later, is going to tackle the wall. We're calling Irv Stucco Man because he's all over this wall. We have no question that Irv is going to make it to the top. Lots of people ready to party. You having fun?
Yes, I am.
It's a wonderful time here on the wall every year. You got to have a lot of muscles, you know, to make it up the wall. John, you look like you qualify. Have you ever taken a bike up this wall?
Yeah, actually I have last year.
I'm not even going to ask you if you made it or not. It's probably a foolish question.
I made it, but it was tough.
It was tough even for John. How about that?
Yes, it was.
A lot of party people here. We've noticed a lot of single, unattached women and a lot of single, unattached men like John. And they're having a good time, but they've been asking me, Scott, can you find somebody for me? So we may even play a little bit of the Manayunk Wall dating game before we're finished. Gary, we're having a good time. This is Party Central on the wall at Manayunk.
It's the dating game with Scott Palmer. He's going to ask some of those interesting questions later on, I guess. Let's go back to the men. You want to go to Manayunk and see a little bit of that. Don't you love that part of the race, Phil?
Oh, I'd love to be there. It's a fabulous atmosphere. Not working, day off, a couple of beers, seeing the best bike riders go past every 15 minutes or so. That's the way to live. That's great. This is Alessandro Guerra. 96 is his race number. He's from Seiko. He comes, his bikes are actually American Cannondales, but the team itself is out of Italy, and they've got themselves into a situation here which they want to get this breakaway going. It looks as though we have about 29 riders still there, just ahead of the field, and once we get amongst it, we'll identify them all for you. But the most important thing is the US Postal boys have got some men there now in the lead, and that looks like it's Frankie Andreu on the front.
Very interesting move you just saw there. The Postal Service rider in the blue had gone to the front, slowed down, tried to slow the group down. He doesn't want them to go away. He wants his leader, George Hincapie, back. The Italians gesticulating, moving their arms, as they do often anyway, but in this case, trying to get the race going, trying to force the aggression. And aggression has been the key word today.
You don't want to let the U.S. Postal team get out of this, so he's trying to slow it down just a little bit. Those rabbits are out there. The rest of the guys want to keep pace, otherwise it could be lost right here.
Back to the men now, as they now try to sort themselves out as they approach the wall yet again. And looking there at the face of Benoit Joachim. Nearest camera, he's a Luxembourg rider. He's just come over from a big race in Great Britain where I was commentating, where he was the race leader until 2 days to go, and he lost the race. It was a 7-day race. He lost it by 2 seconds. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Would have been the biggest victory of his life. But he still finished second.
After so many hours, losing by such a little amount. But that would make him come down to today, obviously, one sprint towards the finish.
The Luxembourg rider is there defending the chances of George Hincapie and the other U.S. Postal Service team leaders who have missed this big move and are back in the field. No interest on the part so far of the Postal Service riders in driving this break, in contributing to the aggression of this break. They are there to get a free ride, to be carried along, and to profit from the work and the aggression of the other riders who are trying to distance the Postal Service riders. That, in a nutshell, is the psychology of the riders in the breakaway here.
Well, it's only 20 seconds at the minute, so it could all reshape at any moment. But even so, the Accept Car boys didn't make the mistake this time. I've seen at least 2 of their members in this breakaway. So their chasing was worthwhile, and they stayed vigilant, and as soon as the split came again, they were right onto the situation. The Seiko boys are also doing very well now. They put a number of riders here in this leading group. I think they've got 3 and possibly 4 riders in the break. This looks like it's Dario Andriotto. No, it's not. It's our little friend Salvatore Comesso. He's grown a little beard now. That's the latest trend in world cycling. Everybody's growing a goatee beard. So once they put the crash helmets on and they've all got goatee beards, we've got no chance
Oh,
anymore.
my goodness. That doesn't help with the wind resistance, doesn't having those
it's a passing phase.
Those goatee beards, as you say.
It's a passing phase.
Is Mike McCarthy? Can we hear Mike? Mike's on a motorcycle right next to the riders. Mike, are you able to hear us?
I'm right here. I'm at the back of the group again, my comfort position. You know, the amazing thing is how committed the riders here, especially the Italians, are to this breakaway. I've never seen Seiko and Mappe ride this hard, this early in the race. These guys must have something up their sleeve here. The Americans not quite as keen. A couple of fast sprinters in the break, too, with Frazier and Harm Janssen up here. This is a very interesting group. And definitely very committed to the effort right now. The looks on the faces, the way they're strung out here, these guys are going for it. We just came down Benjamin Franklin Parkway doing 38 miles an hour, and we're not riding away from the field. So a very big effort here, very early in the race. And if this doesn't come back, this break's going to go a long way.
Mike, it's John Eustace here. What is the position of the U.S. Postal Service team with this breakaway out in front? What is their attitude?
Well, I think that Frankie and Benoit and Marty especially are very... would be very interested in seeing this break come back. They don't have their big guns up here in this group, and I think they're the ones that have been rotating through the lines, slowing things down. You see the look on Frankie's face as one of a little bit of frustration. He doesn't like this break, and they probably have the most to lose if this thing goes away.
All right, thank you, Mike. All right, John. All right, Phil. All right, everybody. We'll be back with more of the U.S. Pro Cycling Championships. Stay right there. We're live on the Parkway.
Absolutely. And speaking of the attack, the man who we've seen in the front for the last half an hour, Salvatore Comesso, the Seiko Cannondale team, the man from Naples, Italy, has promised to dynamite this race, and he's living up to his word. They are chasing him.
Let's listen to a little bit of the Manayunk response to the men as they're heading up lap number 5. As you can hear the people responding to these folks. Back live at the U.S. Pro Cycling Championships. These are the men on lap number 5 heading around Lemon Hill. As many of the men have a 43-second lead. A couple guys have broken out as well. 2 guys out in front. The rest of the pack is just waiting to see what's going to happen. Let's see what has happened with our race summary up to the minute.
This racing summary is brought to you by the U.S. Postal Service.
End of lap number 2, 11-man break. As you see some of the names right there. Maximum gap at one point was 2 minutes and 40 seconds away for about 40 miles at the time. But now Sayers and Sheehan have the lead, as we say, the 2 guys out in front by 47 seconds. Let's go back here and see what's happening with Phil And with John, you're checking out your leaders, and now there are 2 out in front, and that big lead of the 29 group has boiled down to just 2, Phil.
Yeah, they've wiped them all out, in fact, Gary, but these 2 have tried to go clear now from that group. Clark Sheehan and Mike Sayers, 2 Americans, are trying to steal a march and start another move. But it is a very, very tenacious race today. Everybody that attacks gets brought back into the main field, and sooner or later the legs are going to give up, because we're now racing at around 70 miles covered. We're well short of halfway yet, John, but the Americans haven't waited for anybody else to make a move today.
It's been aggressive, and that's been one of the wonderful aspects of this race today, is the spirit of aggression that we've seen from the start to this point. They've been going, breakaways have been attacking, fields have been chasing, it's been coming back together, but there's never a moment's hesitation. Bang! As soon as it comes together, someone else is up the road.
Anyway, we're looking down at the 2 leaders of the men's race here. Clark Sheehan and Mike Sayers, and they've got a lead now of just over a minute, Gary, so this is an interesting move. Not so many of them, you see, and the big pack are easing back now, waiting for somebody else to take up the chase, and we might find these 2 leaders get a nice little lead for a while.
Mike Sayers is a member of the Mercury team, and it's one of the teams we talked about earlier in the bike race as being the favored Americans who were really trying to take this race to the United States Postal Service team. Mercury is sort of known as the dirty dozen of American bike racing. They're tough, they're aggressive, they take the rules to the limit sometimes, and they win an awful lot of races.
They have a lot of money. They have a lot of money. That's why people don't like them.
Very good corporate support, very smooth image. Former college football coach as their coach, John Warden.
Sure.
He's got a football attitude about things. Go through holes. Doesn't matter what they are, just go right through them. Rules, regulations, bang, he goes there. And that spirit has manifested itself in the way the team rides, and they are winners, and they're out here taking the race to the front.
Talk about winning at all costs. There was a great article this morning in the paper about what happened with Marco Pantani, leader of the Tour of Italy. And that's one issue that we got to address today, is the question of EPO, that certain people take shortcuts with drugs. And that's a very, very serious problem, because EPO, as we were talking about before, could be very life-threatening, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the big issues confronting sports today. You have the issue with Mark McGuire.
Right.
Earlier last year. It is an issue that is there. We have swimmers, you have all sorts of athletes that use medical support. And where the limits are on that support, where the drugs are, where the lines between what is good for recuperation and healing and where that turns into performance enhancing is a hotly contested issue.
Back live, US Pro Cycling Championships, heading towards noon here on Channel 6, WPVI television. Normally you'd be watching Scott Palmer and Andrew Brickman and David Murphy with the news, but I guess this is the big story today. US Pro Cycling Championships has come to the streets of Philadelphia. These are the men.
And we're looking down on the 2 leaders now, and it's still Clark Sheehan and Mike Sayers. And then about a minute and 20 seconds behind them, we have Lucas Sagata and Matt Hansen, 2 more Americans. Main field back to 2 minutes.
We also got Mark Gorski, U.S. Postal Team. He's the man who manages the team. Mark, how's it going for your squad?
Well, it's going well so far. We had Dylan up in the early move there, and he did a good job covering it. But I'm a little concerned the race isn't going hard enough for our team right now. It's still a relatively easy pace, and the guys that are out there in the breakaway right now really aren't dangerous. And we might have to stretch some legs up the wall the next couple times.
You're saying it's not going hard enough for you right now, that it's not aggressive enough for your team?
Yeah, that's exactly what. Believe it or not, that's what I'm saying.
How can you make it more aggressive? Because we've been commenting all morning that everybody else seems to be pushing the race to you guys and trying to challenge you guys.
Yeah, I think they were, but if you're watching the race right now, the last few miles has been going pretty easy since Comesso and Peel were caught, and we're just going to we got to take some of the strength on the sprinter's legs over the next 2 or 3 laps up the wall.
Mark, are you going to be sending some riders on the attack? Do you plan to send your entire team to the front in a train? What might be your tactic?
No, we won't go up in a train this early in the race, but we may put someone like Marty or Frankie or Benoit up there and push the pace up the wall and maybe try and get in a smaller group. But just try and animate the race a little bit.
Have you been feeling the pressure of the race? Has your team had to do a lot of chasing so far?
Well, we haven't necessarily had to do a lot of chasing yet, but I think we do feel a lot of pressure as a defending champion, the U.S. Postal Service team is I think, the favorite in the race, and I think the guys do feel a lot of pressure because of that.
All right, thank you, Mark. We'll try to make it tougher for you guys in the next half of the race. Good luck to George and everybody else from the U.S. Postal Service team. Thank you, Mark Gorski, for joining us live here. Taking some time out as he's the director of the team as we check out the race right now, Mr. Phil Leggett.